Welcome into Unread Gems. I'm Glen Rockney, and today we're going to start off the series with a book from a guy named Kelby Losack called Letting Out the Devils. Letting Out the Devils is autofiction by a friend of mine by the name of Kelby Losack. And you might be like, whoa, stop right there. I'm going to listen to a guy recommend a book that one of his friends wrote. Exactly. That's exactly what you're going to do. Yeah, I'm biased, but guess what? I'm also right. This is a great book, and I want everyone to read it. What is Letting Out the Devils? Letting Out the Devils is what many would consider to be autofiction, right? Autofiction is basically autobiographical, but with a little fictional plot line, maybe a little spice added, maybe a few details muddled, maybe, in Kelby's case, he might not want to give everyone's name that he associated with in the past or the exact type of people he was associating with. And Kelby comes from the environment, essentially that he was writing about in Letting Out the Devils. It's may seem like a kind of a fantasy, dystopian, sci-fi-ish, post-apocalyptic world. But there are many places like this, and I am not afraid to say that I've been in some of these worlds. I was lucky enough to not get too far into them, but let's just say that this book it kind of transports me back into the time where I was waiting in a Wendy's parking lot, like one of those truck stop nasty Wendy's, waiting on somebody to give me some weed or maybe even some stronger stuff than that, and having a guy come out, maybe even the guy that worked at Wendy's, coming out and handing me a napkin, right? I'll be like, what's in the napkin? And there's a bunch of loose weed. That's what it kind of feels like when you're reading this book. It's just you're transported back into that time. Now, you might be saying, I'm looking for something that's like kind of got that academic prose, something challenging to me, something that I want to have to look at like 10 other YouTube videos to figure out if I understand it or not. Don't then. Go find something else. Because if you want something entertaining, something good, something accessible, maybe you haven't picked up a book in a while. Maybe you're from this world that Kelby's writing about. Maybe you're from the Wendy's at the truck stop. Maybe you're from the gas station liquor store with all the bulletproof glass and all the cool, expensive stuff hidden behind it. Maybe you live in the shotgun house where you have to boil the water to drink it. Maybe you live there. This is the book for you. It's accessible, but that does not mean it's not hard-hitting and not filled with the themes that you want in a book. It stays with you. It stays with you. I read it about a week and a half ago, and I'm still thinking about it. So let's talk about a couple things in this book before I get to the interview with Kelby Losack. A couple things in here is you see a lot of the people in there are depreciating assets, right? These are people that are in a world that they want to escape from, but it's kind of seems like they're rooted like trees almost there, to where no matter what they do, they're probably going to stay in that same barren wasteland of a society. But Emery, the protagonist's child, being inserted into the mix, kind of adds this extra motivation, right? Adds this motivation because you have this pure life that has not been corrupted by this world yet, to where the main character really, really wants to pull himself up by his bootstraps and get the heck out of this town. And that's something that, not a lot of people have. Not a lot of people have their why. I know how corny and self-helpy that sounds, but it's true. You need your why to get out of these worlds. You have all types of crazy characters, eclectic, kind of Thomas Pynchon-like characters, guys you never thought you'd ever see. But once you go to certain towns, you start seeing people that remind you of those characters after you've read the book. For instance, you have Raymond. You have the guy with white supremacist tattoos who got them in jail, never really wants to tell you how they got there, but also isn't ashamed of his past, and quite honestly is pretty much ready to go right back into that same jail that he got out of, and doesn't really adjust too much of his lifestyle to avoid such consequences. You see people like that. You see the spiritual drug dealer guys who are trying to open their third eye and transcend into another reality, all the while selling novel narcotics to society that no one's ever heard of, that are like 10 drugs combined into one. All these people, they exist in some form or another, but they all tend to be in this small town. It does kind of feel like a video game where the characters just hop in from town to town and almost like cutscenes from a video game, and then you can kind of fill in the blanks with the action and stuff. It's a great read. It's a great read, and it's inspiring because as men if you're a man that wasn't born on third base thinking he hit a triple, if you're somebody who has to work for what they've done, maybe perhaps your parents didn't have a lot of money, you come from the working class background or even lower than that, you can relate to this. You can relate with the temptations of a burnout, right? You know what I mean? Of kind of those scumbag burnout temptations. It is easy to hit pause on life and kind of just stop time and just live in 2007 with Famous Stars and Straps hoodies on and just high out of your mind and kind of working dead end jobs and just kind of doing that. And you blink and you're 47 years old with a criminal record. It's easy to get there. For me, reading this, it's a quick read. Kelby talks about this. He talks about this in our interview. He wants this to be, basically he wants the characters in the book to pick up this book and read. So yeah, you might say like, well, why don't they start with this book? Why don't they start with this big, massive tome and try to get through it? No, you gotta compete with the screens nowadays, right? A lot of people from all socioeconomic backgrounds, they're screen addicted. And this book is, it's a quick read. There are chapters that are just a few sentences, but they're hard hitting. I mean, there's no wasted words in this book at all. And it's something you could sit down and read in a day if you wanted to. It's something you could read, over a week, just a couple pages at a time. You could read it at your own pace. And I couldn't recommend it even any more than I already have. Shout out to Broken River. Broken River is an independent book collective. They have many authors on there. You got David Simmons, J. David Osborne, and Kelby Losack, and much more on there. So go check out Broken River. Kelby says you can get this on Amazon. I was reluctant in the interview to recommend Amazon because I that always reads like a company making more money than the author. But he says it's okay. So go check it out. I will put the link in the description. And without further ado, let me introduce Kelby Losack. We're going to get you right back to the episode, but I just wanted to let you guys know of a few other things we offer at Rare Candy Industries. We have a Substack with free and paid subscription options. Free subscribers get access to all written content. That includes Bob's Red Pill. That's the best thing going on the internet right now. Trust me. Paid subscribers get full access to our premium episode feed. And that's just every episode we don't necessarily want to share with the general public, if you know what I'm saying. Again, that's rarecandy.substack.com. We also have merch. That link's a little long for me to say right now, but go to the description, go to our merch store, and find a shirt that's right for you. We have Rare Candy shirts, Dr. Bronner soap label shirts, Rishi mushroom shirts, all types of stuff there. Check it out. There's got to be something for you. And lastly, check us out on social media. On Instagram, we're Rare Candy Pod, but on Twitter, we're at Rare Candy Pod 1. All right, enough of that. Let's get you back into the episode. Like to welcome on author of Letting Out the Devils. He's a podcaster. Don't hold that against him, but he's a podcaster. He's a writer, and relevant to the book, he is a family man. He's a father. So Kelby Losack, how's it going?
Good, man. Happy to be here always.
Sweet. So I just finished this book. It's wonderful. I'm not going to spoil it for the audience. One thing I found funny is that you and I did the Gain of Fiction, which is on our Substack, rarecandy.substack.com, on Bret Easton Ellis. And little did I know, you kind of have your own Less Than Zero kind of book. I didn't. This kind of reads like Less Than Zero to me.
Yeah. That's, and I brought that up on that, but I'll bring it up again. How like Less Than Zero is like one of those retroactive influences on my shit.
Yeah, you didn't know.
I hadn't even read it until that was I had only read American Psycho before, but Ellis has influenced so many people that like it just trickled down to being this style that I think I'm not going to claim to like have invented a certain style, but it's definitely part of the cocktail, the shit that got mixed into the way that I write, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can see it. It's one of those things like, I tend to hear a radio show that I kind of relate to, but I don't know. I'm like, well, I wasn't influenced by that, but I felt like we were vibrating on the same frequency, and it's nice to know that like, for one, you become like, man, it doesn't make you less unique, but you feel like, oh man, like somebody else is thinking the same way as me, and it's but you have your own style. Your prose in here is not like Bret Easton Ellis. It's completely different. It's just, I think the one thing that reminded me in this book of that is just the way that the action is kind of just rolled out in the same tone as everything else you're describing in the book. You're not building up anything. It's just like, oh, that happened. Whoa, you know, like, and it hits you. It hits extra hard that way, which I like.
I always, and see, I don't even know if that was ever a conscious thing, because my very first book, people asked how I was able to be so detached from the content, and just because it gave it a type of authority and just saying things matter of factly or whatever. And I definitely don't, on the critic side, I enjoy when shit is like that, but I don't think I've ever started consciously writing like that. I just I did a bunch of SSRIs as a teenager and just kind of became permanently detached from shit. So
that's a good segue. How detached are you from this book? Because it doesn't sound like I know a little bit about you, and it sounds like there's is this autofiction? I mean, I know that's kind of a bad word sometimes now because everybody does it, but is this autofiction?
Oh, for sure. Even to the point, my wife was like, what are you doing? She read it and she was like, what are you doing? And I was like, it's okay. We don't have a girl, you know.
There you go. Plausible deniability.
Exactly. Yeah. You do some gender swapping and some job swapping, and then you can just pretty much just steal from your real life.
Yeah, and I don't think enough people know about what you like, where you came from. And there might be somebody who's reading this book that might just be like an academic that's like that. The way I was thinking of it was that it reminds you of a if you don't know this type of life, if you don't know these type of characters, which I am lucky enough to know some people like Raymond and people like that in the book. But if you don't, you feel like that you are being dropped into this post-apocalyptic world, but nobody knows an apocalypse. But nobody knows the apocalypse happened in the book. Like it's just like kind of a wastelandy kind of area. But this is very common, I think, this world. But I guess what I'm saying is like, what's your story, man? Can you bring everybody up to date on your story? Because you're not a typical academic writer guy.
No, definitely not academic in any sense of the word. No kind of degree or anything. I don't know what to put. The last resume I filled out for education, I just put the streets because I thought that was funny, and I didn't get the job.
No, I don't think so.
No, but wasteland is appropriate because I live in Gulf Coast, Texas, which is down by it's swamp, it's coastal, and it's both rural and urban. It's like this whole hodgepodge of shit, and the only kind of like there's a lot of artists around here because it's kind of like everybody trying to get out in any way they can. I think like creativity, you're in a place as myopic as this that's just run by the chemical plant. Like Dow just has like monopoly on everything, and if you don't go work for Dow, that's pretty much there's not a whole lot of career shit down here. But so you get a lot of dope dealers and you get a lot of artists, and I've been both. You know, I'm 30 years old now. Like I ain't been slinging shit for forever, so it's what it is. But just like coming from that kind of like pre-apocalypse kind of place that's very influenced by our neighbor Houston. So it's like big rap culture, and you get a lot of fucking oddball schizos roaming the streets, which is why most of my books up to this point, like I'm writing a bunch of plot heavy shit, a lot of mainstream shit actually in the works, but a lot of this type of this hood rat noir shit is just me journaling stuff that I think is fucking crazy. Like I take walks and journal things that I see, and I'm like, that dude has to go in here somewhere. Raymond is this swastika tatted wigger who is an actual, close person in my life who I was just always fascinated by that. We go to parties, like we're surrounded by black people. He goes to prison, comes out with all these Nazi tats, and they're just like, the fuck is that? He's just like, what? He has like a white power tattooed on his shins. We were wearing shorts. He was wearing shorts at a party one time, and this dude goes, "The fuck is up with that?" And he was like, "What? I'm proud to be white."
Yeah, and in jail's a different life. I mean, jail is just completely different. I mean, it's very tribal, very territorial based, and like I said, I think this book becomes more of a fantasy type novel, or just like a straight up dystopian novel if you don't know what's going on. Now, it's mirrors a bit of reality for me as well. I never was into dope or anything like that, but I was always hanging around gas stations and I was always looking for it. So, it was it was the gas station element of this is I mean, you can picture it so well. I mean, all the bulletproof glass, everything important being hidden that you don't want anyone to get into. But it's the central hub. Like, it doesn't seem like anything else is going on in this town, but the gas station is the central hub. It seems like one of those places where people go like 8 times a day, just for like just make like 8 separate trips to that gas station as just a thing you do, like making multiple trips. You're kind of you were a gas. I know you're making some health changes now, but you were like a big gas station supermarket guy, huh?
Yeah, for sure. You were saying that, and I'm like, yeah, there's a Buzzy Bee on the corner that like they pride themselves on being the we sell the most winning lotto tickets in Texas, which I call bullshit because
No way.
I ain't ever seen a winner around here, but I see a lot of people playing it. But they yeah, some really cool Pakistani dudes that own it. They rock the like Rockets t-shirts and the gold chains, and they're always like, "What's up, my brother?"
Yeah, always.
It's a fun vibe. I would pull in there for like breakfast and then go get a couple of energy drinks throughout the day. And then have to fill up the car, and so it was like a 4 or 5 time little drop throughout the day.
Amazing stuff, man. No, it drops me right back into like just after college didn't work out for me. I was living that sort of life, just kind of like walking into random trailers, houses that I didn't know were houses, and stuff. Just it is. I think hood rat noir is definitely a good subgenre, a good way to describe that. Now, the family aspect of it is great because you describe the characters with Kira and Emery, that you guys are living in a shotgun house, and it's just not great. But it is like heaven, though. I mean, compared to everywhere else, it's this like tattered house where you have to boil the water because the
amoebas are gonna get you.
Yeah, all that stuff. But I guess speak to how that saved you becoming a father. Like probably saved you, right? I mean, because that's essentially, this character is going to go off the deep end if he didn't have those 2 elements in his life. He's toast, right?
That's 100% it. That was kind of my like sort of fairy tale that I was writing in it. That's like real life. It is the auto fiction side, the probably truest part of it. Even though most of the like fucking weirdos in the book, they're just people that I ripped off the street, like. But the most true part of it is all that family shit. Is just the like being saved by these 2 people that tether you to like a purpose that you are going to, you've got to make it because of them. And that's, I mean, without that, you're just one of the other random schizos, like fucking wearing Confederate flags and finding wheelchairs to hijack and drilling holes in your head or whatever.
Absolutely. And you realize, the child Emery, it's such an important part of, because not so much of what happens, but just her function as the only thing that progresses, really. That's an appreciating asset, right? Everybody else is deteriorating. Everybody else is kind of like stuck where they are. But when you just see somebody, like even the teething process that it's going through, it's like, that's painful, but it's growing. I mean, it's quite literally growth, and everybody else is not growing in the book,
Yeah. I think that's the well, obviously that's the biggest purpose when you become a parent, is to now no matter what's happening to you, even if you are like, well, you're growing closer to the end, so you're sort of on a time limit of getting this, this other thing that you brought into the world. You're like responsible for the future, sort of the future of everybody in a way, but definitely for this little teething demon. So, you know, it's like what greater purpose, you know, you have
Right.
to.
And you see what you go outside and you see just purposeless life happening everywhere. I mean, there's, you know, feral dogs and just trash everywhere, just roads that never get fixed. I mean, everybody can picture it. Everybody's seen that side of town. But I guess what my other question about this is, I've never written anything super long form or put a bunch of ideas with plot and stuff on paper. So this is so foreign to me. But the length of the book, I mean, I read this thing in like a day and a half. Was that intentional for did you want a quick read?
Yeah, most of the time. And I'm trying to lengthen things as like a challenge to myself. And I guess some ideas are coming to me bigger, but also just to mainly to sell to bigger markets.
Mm-hmm.
But but I prefer the short shit.
Mm-hmm.
I take a most inspiration as far as literary inspiration, because like I said, like academic ain't me, and even
Right.
being well read, like you know, you just started the Gain of Fiction thing, and you and I are real close to just being on the same level with like book shit. Like I've written
Mm-hmm.
way more than I've read. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I
You're
know.
right.
I used to work in a bookstore, so I can name, like, you know, I know what people are talking about,
Mm-hmm.
but it ain't like I got like hundreds of books under my belt or shit. So like I appreciate a good fast read, and the people that, like, you know, I want to write for people who go to the gas station 5 times a day. Like I want to write for those people. And so you know, those people are usually like just looking at their phones and shit.
Yeah.
And a book they can just go through in like an hour or a day and a half is something that's like, hey, you know, I think you'd actually dig this, and it's not really going to take up much of your time.
Exactly. It moves at a pace that somebody scrolling through Instagram reels would go. It's on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. It's you know, there, you call it hood rat noir, but it doesn't meander in any way. It doesn't kind of die. It doesn't have its lulls or anything. It is just straight through it. Now there is a, we won't spoil it for the readers, but it gets quite spiritual. It gets quite psychedelic. I mean, talk to me about how you came up with some of that idea without spoiling it. But tell me, how does at what point do you decide, like, it's time to go surreal, time to get psychedelic?
As fast as possible. I want that shit. Like that's
Yeah.
my main shit, is all the spiritual psychedelic shit. That's like, that's also part of my everyday life. Like the more people ask about, say lately after my stint in the hospital, it's been like, you know, how you doing? And I'm like trying to skirt around, oh, I've been talking to shamans and wizards and shit. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I've been reconciling with past selves and getting rid of and doing some ancestral healing and shit. And I'm just like, oh, you know, I'm eating better, whatever. But that shit, like all the surreal psychedelic shit, is just, it's the vibe, it's how I live. So with the writing, it's like basically, yeah, there's no thought to when to drop it. It's just whenever there's an opening, it's like, here's where we're gonna slip some of this in, as if it's another character showing up. It's like, okay, it's time to pop some calm and turn the
Mm-hmm.
PS1 graphics on, and or it's time to get into some self trepidation and free our minds by drilling our skulls.
And also, what's more surreal? A guy wrapped up in a Confederate flag making soup can shiv knives, or a portal that you could go into. It's not that far off, right? So it's like when
No,
you've created a reality that is quite surreal at times, like tripping out's nothing.
yeah, that's I've always, you know, been fascinated by the mundanely surreal, and
Mm-hmm.
it's those two things being on like the same, like, you know, yeah, the homeless veteran dude with the, you know, the vitiligo spotted black
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend, and the Confederate flag blanket is like, that's as weird as like when I drive past those people
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, that's, I think about it all day to where I have to write about it somewhere, you know, because it's just like, that's weird. It's as weird as going on a crazy mushroom trip where you're like heroic dose and now you're in a field of snow, even though it's the middle of Texas. You're like, whoa.
Are you proud of all the stuff have you gone through, or is there regrets? Like, because now you're upright, you know, and you're making changes for you're making changes for the better. I mean, it hasn't come without some alarming situations, but what, you know, are you proud of it? Have you been able to kind of take the past and be like, you know what, all that happened, and I wouldn't have it any other way, or do you wish it was different in the past?
Um, I've done shit I wish I could not have done for sure. But as far as anything that's happened to me, like I've done shit to other people I wish I could take
Right.
back. But anything with me is like I mean, shit, I think I'm a pretty good dad, you know, and a decent husband.
Listen to
So like,
Agitator, guy. If you listen to Agitator, you find out how good of a dad he is. They raise their kids on the podcast, so it's definitely you will get the glimpse of how good of dads they both are. So that if you guys would want to go check that out, but anyways, please go on.
probably think we yell at them a whole lot, but that's just because we're trying to do the show. Shut up.
Yeah, I
Let me
mean,
get this thought out.
well, you want to talk about surreal lifestyles? People that don't, you know, tell their kids to shut up every once in a while. That's real surreal, more psychedelic than anything.
Bro, that's freaky shit. I go to like when we go to birthday parties and it's like if it's a bunch of white people in the suburbs, I know that they're not about to get onto their kids and I feel like eyes wide shut or something. I'm like, I don't know what kind of weird shit y'all do if you don't like yell at your kid in public. Like cuz you know they just got some dark private lives. You got
Right.
to
It's always,
you got to yell at your kids.
there's always something way worse happening, you know what I mean, than the yelling. But no, you said you feel as though you're doing a good job and you're doing your best. But like at the end of the day, like maybe you would take this for granted if you didn't suffer a little bit in the past, you know, like
100%, 100%. I'm happy with like my AC is blowing right now, and it wasn't at the beginning of the week. So like every little thing for sure. Yeah, I'm very much very appreciative of, and try to stay home. Like you know, it's I've had a very large ego a lot of my life as like a survival tactic. You know,
yeah.
I mean, and because I earned it in a lot of ways, you know. But at the same time, it's like I'm trying to get into like a little bit more Buddhist, uh, Zen master ways of thinking, and so you got to kill the ego, you know, and um, that's kind of it is easy whenever you sort of stop being defensive and step back a little bit. It is pretty easy for me to be like to just shatter the ego because what I have so much to just be. I'm appreciative to even fucking be alive still. So it's yeah, for sure.
It's never a guarantee. It's never, none of this stuff was ever guaranteed. You know, that's always what it is. I mean, you know, it's never the end, right? Even if we're not alive, I don't know that it's ever the end. I think that keeps going on and on. But even just small things going wrong, it's not a guarantee that a bigger thing won't go wrong. But it's all about how you react to it. And that's what's wonderful about this book is you see a lot of people stuck in certain lifestyles, some their fault, some not their fault, and but just as it gets more spiritual and psychedelic, you realize that you have everything you need. It's just all this other stuff, little things that you need to fix, you know, like money. Money's a thing, right? You need more money, but
Yeah.
but I mean, if you get that money and you're still spiritually bankrupt, it doesn't last. You spend it all in a second, and you have trouble making it again. Usually, like it's tough.
I hope that's something that kind of resonates with the end too, where it doesn't because you know, I mean, not to spoil anything, but it doesn't go like leaps and bounds outside of where it started.
Right.
But that's like the more than the kind of material necessity, like that's something you like, yeah, you want to get that bag. It's like you got to get to that place first where it's just kind of realizing like this right here is perfect. Like everything I have is perfect.
Absolutely, and you got to be able to manifest it too, because it's tough. It's tough if you live negatively. You're going to attract more negative energy. It's easier said than done. What is your next project? As much as you can say about your next project, I know you're always working, but what do you got going on?
I've got uh, three more books that'll drop this year. God is Wearing Black, my first short story collection,
Nice.
is dropping next month. So the pre-order is up for that. KelbyLosack.bigcartel.com. It's a lot of different like samples of my stuff. I've gone all over the place with short stories because I don't write a lot of them. This is pretty much all the ones I've ever written for the most part, except the ones that were just like not worth mentioning. But like, so it's very experimental with like genre. Me trying my hand at like a werewolf story,
Yeah.
or like a cartel member who like dies and comes back as a dog. Fucking cowboy berserk type fantasy revenge story, like just all in a lot of hood rat shit too. And that I'm also I've got my first horror novel, or my first like I guess officially horror novel, Roughneck, is dropping in October. It's
Wow.
about an evil mascot that begins to terrorize this rural Texas town, and a group of diverse teens are fighting against it, kind of like It meets Euphoria.
Oh,
Bit.
nice.
And then Screen Time, gonna be an agitator patron. He's a middle school teacher. He was like, "Hey, if y'all ever write a YA novel, like I'll put it in my class." And I was like, "Okay, I'm on it." And so this might be like, I don't want to spill too much about it because I'm still excited writing it, and I don't want to like. Sometimes I feel like if I give too much away, I feel like I've already written it. And then
Right.
So, but it's cyberpunk and it's YA, and it's probably the most excited I've ever been writing shit.
Sweet. Well, for now, I can fully endorse. I mean, I'm gonna read all that stuff as it comes out. Probably have to have you come back on this little mini show to talk about some of those things. But everybody, check out "Letting Out the Devils." Where's the best place to buy it? I got it on Amazon, but I felt spiritually wrong when I did. So
everybody always does.
I'm
but
scared.
Nah, Amazon is good. Like I set prices on there. They fuck with the prices sometimes, but like I set the prices there, so, and I collect the check at the end of the month. So like Amazon is fine. I know,
Okay.
like, as an entity, maybe not, but as far as getting
Sure.
getting money to the author, it's good. It's a good
All
place
right.
to go.
And lastly, tell me about Broken River. What's going on with Broken River? And everybody's in a sense either doing a collective self-publish or self-publishing now. Every writer I talk to is not even trying to get in with the big publishers. They're just going straight to it. So tell me about Broken River and why you guys decided to just kind of do it on your own.
Well, we've got, so many friends who have gone different routes, different traditional routes, made it big, and then some have made it big like in same ways that others have made it big, but the way that they like it's all just on paper, this prestige thing that like, I've made more money than a lot of people I know who have gone with Big Five Publishing. And I just don't see the point in that, mainly with how long it takes. Like if they'd accept a book that I wrote in a month and give me $2,000 and that's it, then I'd be like, ah, cool, I made $2,000 this month and I wrote a book, whatever. But how they want to, take 5 years to fucking publish that shit.
Right.
So Broken River Collective is like all of us doing our own thing. It's me, Jaded Osborne, who's started Broken River, David Simmons, Grant Womack, and E. Rathke. We're all doing our own thing and free to pursue shit however we want, which makes like market research real nice for this collective, because we'll all do different shit and see what works for each person.
Right.
But so we're out here like slinging our shit to try and doing the film rights thing, doing whatever, pretty much everything, but trying to get traditionally published, because it's just like that shit's going down. But what's not going down is people are reading, and people want books, and they want like interesting books. Like it's a real simple thing, and we all write like fucking machines somehow, even though I feel like I don't ever get to write like as much as I want to. But it's yeah, we're just doing cool shit. We're all on this like cyberpunk wave for the most part right now. So writing a whole bunch of cyberpunk shit, trying to get a magazine going up pretty soon, a week or a monthly little kind of print pamphlet called Flatline, going to be coming soon. It's all cyberpunk themed, from the Broken River camp. And
yeah, man, nice.
Yeah, just art all the time.
Very nice, very nice. So you also have a podcast, Agitator. I've had the privilege of going on it a few times. You've been on. We've been collaborating a lot. So everybody go support Agitator. They have a Patreon. What's the link for the Patreon?
Patreon.com/agitator.
Cool. Yeah. So get Letting Out the Devils. Support Broken River. This is called Unread Gems because, you know, I hate to call somebody's book unread, but to be honest, like more people like you, whenever you make something, right? It's like whenever you make something, most people haven't consumed it, right? I mean, that's just unless you are like, I mean, even Bret Easton Ellis that we just talked about, most people have not read his books.
I hadn't. I had only read American Psycho, you know.
If you just took the amount of people in the world, most people have not read Bret Easton Ellis. I mean, it's just a fact. So for everybody right now that says there are no good books out there, there are, right? I've been reading the classics, and I fooled myself into thinking there weren't. But I had answers right in front of me. I have my own friends that come on here. I'm going to be doing the best to showcase on this series some of the best writers that are out there that self-publish. So. Keep it going. As long as you guys keep writing, we're going to keep doing stuff like this. And like I said, everybody go get Letting Out the Devils, fully endorsed RC endorsement. Check it out. It's available on Amazon and other platforms as well. But he says Amazon's okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, you can do it. Don't feel bad.
All right, guys. Catch you next time. Like, if you want to get the public on your side, you're going to have shows that people actually want to watch.
So I've had several friends tell me ghost stories over the years, and most of the time, to be honest, I don't really believe them because a lot of them seem a bit woo-woo-ish, I suppose. But there's one that really convinced me.
The moon is an anomaly of our solar system. Even if you're the biggest normie, you have to admit, the moon is special. It's far too big compared to the Earth to be classified as a normal moon. Its origin is still a mystery that has been artificially solved by NDT NASA Reddit types. In fact, it wasn't that long ago that mainstream scientists and thinkers openly questioned the origin story of the moon. Cause I'm fucking broke. And either way, I know the police ain't gonna leave me alone. On a plane by to visit Glen Rockney. Crypto told me I should bring the Glock with me. So I packed up my piece and I'm sliding. Cause we might get caught up in a riot. Middle finger Trump, middle finger Biden. Fuck a left, fuck a right, is you riding? Know you love to see it, dudes rocking. Ain't no politics, baby, we just talking. From the birds to the bricks, we be in the mix. With that rare candy paint job on the whip, who you with?